everybody. We're going to Om now. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be with you again this evening. And I had to take over and speak out loud to finish that prayer. This is really helpful to me when everyone is praying and or saying, speaking together, making noises. The vibration is a great help. So that's why we do the Ohms too. So it's nice to be with you in this evening. And of course, if you've been here before, you know it's me, Juana, and I am going to get a healer for everybody. One moment, please. And the healers are in place. And as always, remember that if you want to send healing to someone, all you need to do is ask your healer to please send healing to whomever you wish to send healing to. And as well as you're being healed, that healer will take care of that other person at the same time, because they can be in two places at once. Isn't that wonderful? So okay, now I'm going to get Ron Carr. One moment, please. Good evening. It is I, Ron Carr. It is my pleasure to be with you in this evening. From time to time in this particular meeting that we are having, that is called Ask Spirit Anything, someone has asked for personal messages. And I did explain that I do not give personal messages at this venue. It is a very public venue. Anyone can see. You may not want other people to hear a personal message for yourself. And so I choose not to offer personal messages at this time. General knowledge, wisdom, guidance, these are what I ask to give. But if I were to give you a message, I would give you a message for everyone. Everyone can benefit from the message of how to decide how their life is going. And it's a very simple test. So you look at yourself and you simply say, am I happy? And if you cannot answer that in the affirmative, then you definitely could use some soul searching, perhaps a personal message, but you can figure it out for yourself. Because all you need to do is to seek to find out the source of your unhappiness. Are you unhappy because you do not have self-fulfillment in your job? Are you unhappy because your personal relationships are not going the way you would like them to go? Do you feel ignored? Do you feel as if you are not being given any acknowledgement? What are you expecting in your relationships? This could be a clue to why you are feeling unhappy. So what are ways in which you can discover the source of your unhappiness? One of those, of course, is fulfillment. Are you fulfilled in your work? Are you fulfilled in your relationships? Are you feeling well? Are you in the best of health? Do you eat properly? Do you take some exercise? You have all heard this guidance given to you, especially around this coronavirus, because these are the things that help to keep your physical body healthy. If you do not eat properly, you may not have enough energy to do everything that you want to do. You may feel tired, you may feel run down, and you will certainly be unhappy. You might be oversensitive. Are there other things that are bothering you? And you need to take stock of these things for yourself. Because when you are aware about yourself and your own being, then you are more easily guided to make decisions and take actions which might help you to feel better, to improve your mood, to become happier. There are so many ways in which you, through your own personal actions and changing some of your attitudes, your expectations, can make a big difference in your life. And I just used a very important word. It is the word expectations. For many people go through life being disappointed because they have high expectations of other people. They think that other people should behave in certain ways. And when they don't, then they become disappointed. They even become angry. They can become hurt. They can become sad. However, it is these expectations, not the actions of the other people, but your expectations as how you believe others should behave that cause you your personal hurt and your unhappiness with your relationships. When you think people should behave in a certain way, you think you are working from ethics and your ideas of your own behavior. And perhaps you do live up to those expectations because you apply them to yourself. However, many times we also forgive ourselves in how we have possibly mismanaged our behaviors towards someone else. We don't always ask their forgiveness if we detect that they have become unhappy with our behavior. We may not even understand why are they unhappy with what we have said or what they have done, what we have done. That is because we do not know their expectations. What did they expect of you? And that is the problem with expectations. Expectations lead to disappointments. And when you are disappointed, it is difficult to overcome that disappointment, to establish a good relationship with someone. You are sure to let it show in some way or another. Now, if you can adopt the thought, the feeling, the belief, the understanding that you have no right to expect any sort of behaviors from any other person that exists on this planet. They all have free will. They all have all the rights that you have, and they have the right to make mistakes. And understanding that and truly understanding that allows you to accept other people's behaviors. You have no right to judge others. You have no right to insist on certain behaviors or certain attitudes or certain types of talk from others. And when you can release your expectations from others, then of course, you cannot be disappointed in their actions. You will not be unhappy with what they do. Now, this is a very difficult task, to not expect things of others and to be able to release them from your expectations and just accept them as they are. You look at yourself and you want people to accept you as you are. Whether you are old or young, whether you are fat or whether you are skinny, whether you are smart, whether you do anything that you are personally, you want to be accepted as you are. Hopefully, if you fall in love with someone, you are accepting them as they are. But most of you fall in love with the belief you have as to the person that they are. And over time, your beliefs may play out, or you may find that there were erroneous beliefs. And what you believe this person that you have fallen in love with does and how they act may be a disappointment to you. And it's okay for you to have such beliefs and to fall in love. But when the reality of the situation comes along, you must reevaluate your own beliefs and whether they are necessary for you to have a good relationship with this individual. The most loving thing you can do for anyone is to accept them as they are, with their faults and everything in the relationship, with the way they are, their faults, their good traits. And when you appreciate all the good things and you accept those that are less than good, then it is that you truly love that individual. Now, there is one other essential thing for your life. And when people are asking for messages, it is sometimes because either they have decisions to make or they feel the need to make changes, and they are hoping for some direction in their changes. And so that falls into the heading of self-fulfillment and self-love. You have to love yourself enough to treat yourself well. Now, this does not mean going out and buying a sports car, a mink coat, spending money on yourself, particularly if you don't have the money. And you may get yourself in financial trouble if loving yourself consists of giving yourself things. Or if it consists of eating good food, you could get very fat. But you still would not satisfy that need to be loved by yourself. Because many people stay in relationships with either family members, friends, that are not uplifting and helpful to themselves. They may even be harmful. Many people have friends, so-called friends, and these friends really are almost more of a problem than they are of a friend, because they may be full of negative notions, perceptions, ideas. And if they are always talking about how they are unhappy, or they need to change, they need something else going on in their life, and they have another disaster happening, it is very hard for you to stay in that type of relationship, because their total unhappiness, their total expectations of something you're not sure what it is, which ruins their life, is what you are always hearing, and you are subjecting your consciousness to. And as a result, this can have an effect upon your consciousness. It is said, and it is well known, as an example of this, if you associate with people who are fat, who enjoy good food and eat too much, or enjoy foods that are high in calories, you will probably gain weight too. If you hang around with thin people, you will be thinner also, because you are influenced by one another. So when we come to the question of fulfillment and loving ourselves, it is important to take a look at our relationships to see whether these are good relationships for us to be in. Unfortunately, there are always family relationships, which are much harder to discard, but you can always limit them in many ways. You do not have to see them all the time. Be busy. Call them when you are in an upward mood and you want to talk to them if you don't particularly like a family member, or you end up arguing with them all the time, or your relationship just isn't good. Try to limit the amount of relationship that you have with them. For those who are not family members, well, contemplate whether you really need to keep this person in your life. They may want you there. They may say they need you. They may say they love you. But do you feel this love? Do you feel they truly love you, or are they just want your help? They want a sounding board. What is it they want from you? And if it is not something you want to give and you want to experience in your life, then it is important for you to let go of these kind of individuals. Now, self-fulfillment comes down more to talking about your job and your work. And the work that you do, is it fulfilling or is it not fulfilling? And is it not fulfilling because of what you're thinking, or is it not fulfilling because of other things in the job? Many times we're not happy because we don't feel important, but maybe we feel what we are doing is menial labor and of no value to other people. And so we don't hear reinforcements. Perhaps people don't tell us that we're doing a good job. Perhaps people don't tell you that everything is good and your work is appreciated. Can you take your own happiness from the work that you do and be content because you know that you did a good job? You have to congratulate yourself for your work. You have to recognize that what you do is of value to others. And you do it for the self-satisfaction you take from your work. Now, if you truly can't get any satisfaction from your work because it is not stimulating or it is not interesting, perhaps you need to find a new job. And the best thing you can do for yourself is find that job. Go to work for someone else, doing something else that makes you happier. It is really important to take care of yourself in every way to experience a good life. So these are some of the things that might be contained in a message personally given to someone else who says, please give me a message. And their plea for a message is either a plea for guidance or a plea to figure out what is wrong with themselves. And they are the ones who can know best what is their problem. They have to be honest about it with themselves and to figure it out and to think about it and think about it and think about it as you go through your daily life. If you are not happy, then it is time for you to think about why and how you can make it better. Sometimes all it means is that you have to change the way you think of yourself, the way you think of what you do, the way you think of your options. And then you can make your own decisions. Because when you truly know yourself and you know what you want out of life, and if you are not getting it, then you will be able to figure it out, to go inside for your intuitive guidance about yourself, your knowledge of yourself. If you know truly what you want, then you will be able to create it and do it for yourself. And so this has been a long lecture, and I hope it has been of service to someone who is listening. And if there are any questions you would like me to ask me about what I have said, or any questions you would like to ask, please, this is the time to do that. Sometimes I think that I have just somehow wowed everyone into silence, that there are no more questions to be asked. So I hope that someone comes up with something soon, or else it will be time for me to say goodnight.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
My name is Nicholas Payon. I'm 58. I'm a lawyer, trial lawyer, and unhappiness and depression have kind of always been the air I breathe in my life.
Sorry to hear that.
Okay, well, thank you.
So,
and I've been diagnosed as bipolar, and I'm on medication for that, and I just can't seem to avoid serious periods of depression. And there's lack of fulfillment in my job and turmoil in my marriage. And I just wondering about all of it. I am on a road to trying to find a new job, but it's still within law that I think would be more fulfilling and make me happier. But, I'm just feeling lost. And that's also something that is been
Yes,
a constant for me in my life.
I do understand your question, and I hope I can be of help here. The problem is, very simply, that you, like most people, do not understand that you can control your thoughts. And it is easy. You don't have that belief or don't have that determination that when you have a thought, any thought, continue to think on that thought. So if you have the thought that I hate being a trial lawyer, and every day you go to work, you have already said that thought, I hate being a trial lawyer, then you are going to continue to move into that hate every day when you go to work, to go on to move into that unhappiness. So now you have decided, and you are an attorney, so therefore, or a lawyer, so therefore you have studied hard to be in this profession. You have earned what is necessary, the credentials to do this, and you know that you can find other types of work if you wish to, which may often need re-education, because if it is not the same type of law that you have practiced in the past, you may not be familiar with lots of things. So you might try giving yourself a boost by inquiring into different types of law and beginning to review the kinds of knowledge that you will have to know or you will have to need. Now, this will give you a project. And of course, that requires self-discipline to move into that project after a hard day's work doing whatever you are doing during the day, to come home or before you come home to stop and to consult law books and to look into areas may not be exactly what you want to do. But if you truly want to move into a different area of law, you have to familiarize yourself with that area of law. And hopefully you will find something there that will be more agreeable to you than what you are doing now. The other issue with being unhappy and depressed, as I have said, you set yourself up if you make that statement in your mind, I hate being an attorney, I hate being a law, or I hate my job. So you have to suspend that relationship, that idea in your mind. And I hope you understand what I mean, suspend. When the thought comes to you, I hate this job, you have to say, well, I don't like this job. I would like to find something more fulfilling. So whenever you have that thought of how much you dislike your work, you have to moderate it slightly. And you have to send yourself the message that you are taking the action to find something that is more likable to yourself. You may find, partially because maybe you are bipolar, which they say is induced through the hormones that alternate in your body, that you go from one mood to another. But in truth, they are all the same mood. They are simply ones that make you feel terrible, or they are things that make you feel angry, or they are things that they are all the same mood. You don't go from periods of happiness. Well, perhaps you do, but most bipolar people, when they are they are not depressed, are not usually ecstatically happy. They may be delusional, but they are not ecstatically happy. They are thinking things that don't make sense. And I do not believe that is true of you. So that you are looking at vacillating between being very depressed and being kind of average, is the way I would look at that. And so you have to, again, look at those thoughts that you say to yourself frequently. Now, you mentioned that you have marital discord. I am sure that some of that is mutual in that you cause problems for your wife and your wife caused problems for you. It is the
Oh,
way
certainly.
that happens. That is the way that it happens. And so it is important for you to check those judgments. When you find yourself, say, thinking something like, and since I do not know what your issues are, something like, there she goes again. She knows I hate that. That's a bad statement. You can't say that. That's bad. Because you are making yourself feel worse. When you project onto her the fact that what she is doing makes you unhappy, and she is deliberately doing it to make you unhappy, then you become twice as unhappy. So you have to mitigate that thought. There she goes again doing that. She has totally forgotten that I find this annoying, but she is whatever. You have to forgive her for that, and even think, I forgive her for this action at this time. I'm doing my best to ignore it. I am going to look at something else to do right now, so I do not have to see what she is doing. I do not have to be aware of what she is doing. I am going to busy myself doing what I want to do that makes me feel better and makes me feel like I'm making progress in my goal to become a different type of attorney or to feel better. I am going to take a walk now because I am angry. I do not wish to lash out at her because that does not help our relationship. So therefore, I will take a quick walk. I will take a drive. You do something to distract yourself instead of allowing yourself to think about what she is doing, that it is annoying, that it is bad, because you see, that makes it worse. And you continue to put that annoyance. You are pounding nails into your own head if you allow yourself to think about how unhappy you are, how you do not like something. Each of those, you are causing a wound to yourself. And so it is really important that you take control of your thoughts.
That's great advice, but how?
I
Just
know
by doing it? Is that it?
you are correct. It is as simple as forcing yourself to do it. That is not easy. You have to force yourself to do it.
Right.
And as
Be
I
conscious.
said, yes, you have to be conscious because those thoughts are ruining your life. They are making you miserable. And it is a habit that you got into, not deliberately, and it may even been caused by something else. It could be due to whatever they say, the hormones, or whatever is causing your mood problems. But theoretically, you are taking medications to help that stable out.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you might need different medications from time to time. And you may be even able to guess when it is necessary for you to have a change in your medication because you monitor how you are feeling. Your feelings are your key to what is making you unhappy. You generate all your feelings. And I understand it is very hard to make those changes. You have to decide that you can control this. And sometimes it starts with simply this thought that I can control my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I am the person in control of my thoughts. And if you make that affirmation, that can be your beginning of your control. Because as you tell yourself that you are the person who controls your thoughts and that you can control your thoughts and you choose to control your thoughts, you empower yourself. And that is what you need to do. That is how you need to feel. You need to empower yourself to be in control. You may never have been taught how to be in control. You may have had difficult experiences in childhood, And when you were emotionally vulnerable, you may have been, I don't know how to express it, through the words and actions of others, you may have been hurt and essentially bruised and by those words and actions of others in such a way that when you were too young to be into control, that you were no longer in control. And so you never felt that you could control. And so I recommend to you that you start with that affirmation that I am in control of my thoughts. I am in control of my being. I can be in control.
Thank you very much. I
You
appreciate
are
it.
most welcome. It starts there, and it will be a slow thing. You need to start with knowing that you have the control. And I promise you, you will develop it, but it must be something you do every day and that you continue to work on. And knowing that you are the person in control of your life, because truly you are. No one else is. Maybe
I've
you
never heard that before. They say think positive thoughts, but if you don't go one step back before that and
yes, it's
confirm
not.
and believe that you can control your thoughts, then all the positive thoughts in the world are just going to not make any impact.
Oh, yes, and that's because thinking positive thoughts is just not quite enough. Knowing that you can control your thoughts. And when you can control your thoughts, you can choose to push a thought out of your mind. It is not easy to do in the beginning, but because it persists, it comes back over and over and over again. Everyone has experienced this at some point. There has always been a problem that they wake up in the middle of the night and their mind is churning and they are thinking over a problem, or they're going over the last fight they had with their spouse or their boyfriend or their girlfriend, or they're thinking of the problem at work and it just goes over and over and over, and you can't feel as if you can control your thought. You certainly can't when you are at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and not sleeping. Your mind has taken over. And so that's when you begin to say something. I am in control of my thoughts. I can control my thought. I will control my thought. And I'm not going to think on this problem any longer. And then decide what you will think about. It doesn't have to be a positive thought. It can be anything that interests you. What is interesting and fun to think about? Maybe you like to think about cars. Maybe you would like to daydream instead of thinking about this problem or that awful problem. Push that thought away and decide to think about how nice it might be to own a particular car, or what it might be like to drive something, or where you might go on a trip, or any fantasy that you wish is a good thing, because it distracts your thought from your problem and whatever is bothering you for the moment. Because when you choose what you want to think about, you have control. Granted, you have to be aware that this will not last very long. You will momentarily get control, think of something, and before you know it, the original thought will sneak back into your mind, and you have to go through it all again. But I do promise you that if you continue to be the person who is in control of what you want to think about, you will eventually be in that control. That is often referred to as being in the now also. So that if you study any being in the now techniques, they may help you. But
Well,
it is.
I do have a long background in meditation practice, Buddhist meditation. And what you're describing is very similar to that.
Absolutely.
You,
Yes.
the you that says, I can control my thoughts and I am the one who controls my thoughts, is the you that watches your thoughts go in and out while you're meditating. You know?
Yes, that is true. And when you are meditating, you always choose to let go of the thought.
Right.
So, of course, meditation is of service in helping you learn that discipline.
Yeah,
And
I never connected the two, though. Like, I just do that while I'm meditating, but not in the rest of my life, you know.
So now you have a skill which you already know called meditation, which you can apply to other things in your life and be the person who is in control of his thoughts. Right. And you can choose to ignore the things that make you depressed and unhappy, and you can choose to think about solutions and ways to make your life better, rather than allowing your mind to think about that which makes you unhappy.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, and good luck.
Thanks.
Are there other questions?
So, okay, I was saying, Lucia's friend Kathy's always saying to listen to spirit, it's never wrong. And spirit sends us thoughts, and we should pay attention and listen to them. Okay, so my thing is, we have many thoughts, and I mean, some we don't even like. Of course, some of the ones we don't like, we find out later we should have listened to. So I was wondering, is there any helpful hints you know of for singling out the thoughts that we should pay attention to?
It's very difficult. It is very difficult because people who are deciding to listen to spirit cannot tell the difference between the thought that enters their mind that may be coming from spirit or the thought that they are generating themselves. And so if you are deciding to, say, begin to be psychic, you have that difficulty. Is this something I'm imagining, or is this what is going on? And so my advice to you is spirit doesn't give you bad advice. So that you think about what you are hearing or what you are thinking and contemplate it as to whether it will truly help you in the situation or whether it will in some way cause you difficulty. Do you understand what I am saying?
I think so. I think it'll be very hard to do it, but I'm getting the idea.
It is not easy to do because you become suspicious of, is this my desire? Is this what I want? Is this a warning? My advice is simply, if it's a warning, a type of a warning, chances are it is not coming from spirit. Because spirit usually doesn't give you, don't do that messages. Those often come from yourself, and they can be very revealing to you because you know your subconscious mind, you know what is good for you and what is not good for you. And so when you are trying to discern guidance, well, I'm going to suggest something maybe totally radical for some people. Don't necessarily seek the help of spirit in making your decisions. You are the person in control of your life. You have to make the decisions that you think will bring you the greatest good for your well-being and achieve your goals in life. Will it make you happy or will it make you unhappy? This is your responsibility. And so do not ask spirit for help with things that are your responsibility. Take responsibility yourself and work it out as best that you can. If you make a mistake, you have learned something and you can start over and do it again. And perhaps you will take, of course, a different pathway because you recognize the last action didn't work out well. So while spirit is always there, your guides, your angels, they are always with you, sending you the help that you need. You still are the person who is responsible for making your decision. Spirit can't tell you what to do. Spirit can only suggest that you take an action. You are talking to me, and I can't really tell you exactly what you should do. I helped the last gentleman to look at something differently, and he may now be more successful in his life, but I did not tell him exactly what to do. I just told him to take control of his thoughts. And he has come to see it now in a different way. Not because I explained it extremely well, because I probably didn't, but he understood what he needed to hear. And you will understand what you needed to hear from the replies you get to your questions. Just know that it is still your decision on how you are going to think and what you are going to do. And that is about all that I can say to you, because it is not easy to tell the difference from what you hear in your mind or what you see in your mind and what may be there because Spirit has given you a suggestion.
The other angle is, you say somebody wants something. Okay, I want that, I want this, or whatever it is. But yet, sometimes what you want is not always what's best for you. So then you got to turn it around and say, okay, well, I want that, but is that what's really what's best for me? And then I need help.
No, you do not need help. Because you have already asked yourself that question, is it best for you? Why do you want only that which is best for you in your life? I do not know what you are contemplating buying or doing that this would be, that you would think, is it best for myself? You see, most of us have that thought because it was drilled into us when we were young. On the physical side, obviously, I'm talking not about my current status, but most of us, those on the physical plane, your parents have told you to think that. Now, is this good for you? Because you want candy, but is candy good for you? You need to have good nutrition. You can't eat candy. Candy isn't good for you. Well, frankly, whatever you decide that you want, if it isn't good for you, you will find out soon enough, and you will stop it because you will recognize that it is not good for you.
I was trying to avoid that part.
But we cannot avoid the consequences of our actions when we are on the physical plane. That is what the whole thing about being on the physical plane. You are direct creators. You create something and you experience the consequences. You are either successful or sometimes not successful. Do you understand? Sometimes you discover and learn something from everything that you do. And it will not be a question of whether is this good for me? If it is going to bring you happiness, it is probably good for you. Now, if you are going to have to sacrifice something in order to get that happiness, you have to think about whether you wish to sacrifice whatever it is, because it may be extra money that you do not have, it may be your health. Why would it not be good for you? Well, I'm spending too much money. Well, that should be obvious. You don't have to spend it before you see that that is a problem. You can usually figure that out by looking at the money that you have, the money that's coming in, and the money that you want to spend out to get whatever it is that we are thinking about. Right. So you can figure that out before it happens. And
so basically, think of the consequences first.
Well, I do not know. I do not understand the question. Think of the consequences first.
Yes, if you think about you want to do something, go someplace or say something to somebody or whatever it happens to be, if you think of the consequences first, then maybe you could decide whether you really want to do that or not.
Okay, let's look at the words you just said about say something to somebody. Well, here is your rule of thumb. Unless you are going to say something that is loving and uplifting, don't talk about it. It probably will not help your relationship and not help them at all if you are going to make a correction. The only ones you can do that to perhaps is your children. And they would have to be little children, not adult children. Once they become adults, their problems are their problems. If you do not like the way someone behaves, then you have to adjust your own thinking, because you're not liking someone's behavior or someone's words. There's no consequences upon what they do or they say. What's important is then that is their problem. If you do not let that become a problem for you by expecting them to say or do certain things, then you will continue to be happy. You will not be unhappy. You control your thoughts and you realize that I have no right to say that to someone. What you can tell people is knowledge, information, and love. And if you stick to these three subjects, you will generally be safe and not hurt yourself or a relationship.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Are there other questions?
Well, I guess I would like to make a couple comments, maybe a question too. Mostly I agree with what you've said and I've heard it. I hear it in the Law of Attraction. I read it in the Course in Miracles. But I wonder if we couldn't do a little better than, quote, controlling, unquote, our thoughts. It seems we're setting up resistance that way, and then the thoughts will get stronger, the thoughts we don't want. So perhaps
yes, I understand what you are saying. If you are experiencing resistance, which you are inferring these thoughts become stronger.
Build momentum, and then it's harder to get off of that loop.
Yes, you see, when you are in control of your thoughts and your thoughts have developed a certain momentum or have become insistent about your opinion, we will say, about someone else, that they are not nice, or let us be rather absurd at the moment and talk about your opinion of Donald Trump or Joe Biden. And this becomes obsessive to you. It's because you are choosing to think about whatever it is that you do not like about either of these gentlemen and going over it in your mind. This is bringing it to greater importance than it is in your life. Because
that's true. That is true. But it's often said you can't get there from there, meaning you can't make huge leaps in your belief system. You can do lots of different processes, like a placemat process, a focus wheel, segment intending, to get you to just a little bit happier thought, more maybe into a neutral. And then build your way little by little by little into happiness, because most of us can't make a huge jump and just stop thinking something.
No, that is true. But it is helpful to yourself to say, I am happy.
Yeah, yes, or I can be. I'm happy a lot of the time, instead of saying I'm always happy. Good things always come to me.
See, you are continually limiting your happiness, because you are not always happy, you say. And you are not always this way. It is true. You cannot immediately turn from, I hate this person, to I love this person. You have to work in general steps, and you will probably never love the person that you have decided to hate. You might be able to give them enough distance, enough latitude of behavior that you can allow them to only dislike them. And if you dislike them, just don't allow them into your life. Don't watch a single speech of that president. Do not watch or think about Joe Biden. It is not necessary for you. There is no reason to contemplate the things that you do not like.
But
And
even there, with those kind of people, there are actual physical processes you can do. Make yourself write one good thing about that person every day. And before you know it, you've got 8 pages filled. And you can come, even with a person like that, to bless them in your mind and in your heart.
absolutely.
Lots of things, incremental, little by little by little, to get to the positive end of emotions rather than.
Yes, you have learned
Negative.
you have learned the techniques admirably. So, in a sense, you are proving your own answer. You are providing your own answer to your question.
Right. I just wanted the gentleman that you spoke with first to know that there are lots of authors and books and techniques that can help you, that are within your belief system, just help you pick a thought that feels better and just move little by little by little, rather than expecting and then becoming disappointed with yourself that you can't jump all the way into, forgiving or being happy.
Well, we thank your advice, and I'm sure he has heard it and will
Yes.
benefit from it.
Nancy, when you get your 8 pages full of things you like about Trump, send it to me, will you?
I have 3 people right now on my fireplace that I have 7 pages about, just people I had problems with in my own life, relationship problems. And it has worked in the past. It's almost like something in them picks it up. If all minds are joined, in fact, I think after doing this for several months, they neutralize out in their feelings towards you, and you can actually oftentimes just speak again, have a conversation again. It's worked for me before when I've done it.
Yes, it does work, and it does work every time. And it isn't necessary to like Donald Trump. It was merely
That's a little extreme. I don't do those kind of things with politicians.
right, and we do not need to do that to be happy in our lives. They are going to say and do whatever they say and do, and we do not have power over that. And so there is no sense wasting our energy trying at being frustrated over the actions of people that we have absolutely no power over. You do not have much power when it concerns your representatives. Your power lies in the power to send them your vote or not send them your vote. It is limited to that. You can choose to vote for your representative. You do your best with your vote.
Okay, one last question, if you don't mind. Do you think
And
that
you to just your own reaction. Do I think medication?
No, meditation. Do you think
Meditation.
meditation is more effective in helping us to change our mental processes or our beliefs than going to a counselor?
Oh, that is an interesting question. I believe perhaps that meditation is the tool you can use when you go to a counselor and the counselor talks with you about your problem and you talk with them and perhaps they offer you some advice or you discern some information about yourself and your relationship that you can change. Then having meditated, having used the discipline of meditation where you observe your thoughts or you force your thoughts to think about that which you are contemplating, your mantra, or whatever aspect that you are meditating on, that this gives you the skill to control your thoughts. So meditation is a basic tool which helps in all areas of your life, simply because of that ability to control your thoughts that you eventually get as you work on meditation. And then, having learned meditation and developed the ability to control your thoughts. You can choose to take all the processes that you have discussed, such as making lists, using that discipline of meditation in a way, you force yourself to continue to make the list of one thing that you like about this person every day. An excellent example, and I really appreciate your bringing that up at this time. And so talking to a counselor gives you insight into yourself. Meditation helps you make the change. I think that answers your question.
Well, thank you. That was a good answer. Thank you very much.
You are most welcome. And thank you so much for your advice and your guidance at this time also. It is someone who has studied a great deal. Are there other questions?
Okay, this is a little bit off your subject.
Oh,
but
that is good.
okay. Juana, I had asked Juana a question about spirits, the animal spirits, basically, because I remembered you had told me that when the animals die, they go to animal spirit. Basically, it's a whole group. It's a one thing. It's not the same as us, technically.
Yes.
Okay. But when she was talking, she also said that we, or I guess even the animals, don't usually switch or cross over to experience a different kind of life.
Yes.
But that kind of indicates to me that sometimes we do. So I wanted to ask you about that. Do sometimes we decide to, well, because I only know about we, would we like sometimes decide to, you know, be a horse next time or something like that? Or does the horse decide to be us? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes, I understand. And there are individuals, there are philosophies in which they believe that life starts in the simplest form. And as you progress in your development, you eventually come to higher and higher forms. Now,
Oh,
if you are of that belief, even with that, generally, you would have to live a very bad life in order to digress or to fall into a lower level. So having gone from an insect, we will say, to being a worm, which would be at a higher level, I would think, and then into, or starting at a plant and then moving into an insect and then moving into, say, a bird, or, and then maybe a mammal, and then into a human. Different kinds of mammals, and eventually you rise to the level of a human being. It would be very unlikely for you to fall to a lower level. The lower levels of animals are ruled by instinct, and we will call it instinct. There is not a lot of decision making as an insect or an animal. It is hard to progress in the lifetime. You understand, the idea of progression is to bring you to be more and more godlike. And you have to consider the attributes of God. And the most important attribute of God is that he is the creator. And he created everything that is. And so we are made up of the same substance as God, for he has manifested this creation from the substance of his own being. But we can return to the God, if you will, and that may be, I would have to say that in a sense that there's that expression, it is above my pay grade. I am not familiar with that level of knowledge in as much as I am only aware of the levels at which I am and which most people who are human are at. So you would not choose to be a horse, because as much as you might love to be a horse, there is no creative power in that. You have reached the ultimate expression. Even if that is correct about the transmutation of souls, and that you grow from the simplest of souls, which realize that everything has its life force. So therefore, a rock has its life force, and grass and trees have their life force, and all the animals and all the insects have their life forces. Nothing until you come up into the higher mammals do you have the possibility to make decisions and to create the life that you wish. They are all limited in their own ability to create. They can choose to live where they were born. They can choose to move to a different area, move around, but they are very limited. They do not have the opportunities to think the way a human being does. We create our life. We think about, and you have brought it up, about making decisions, about listening to spirit and deciding what is true guidance and what is true help for ourselves. Well, we contemplate our actions and we decide what we want to create in our lives. And we take steps, or we do not take steps to manifest that creation. And so we are creating the life that we wish to live when we are in the physical world. It's compounded by all the decisions you make in every day. And that creates the world that you experience. And it is also known that changing your perceptions can change your world. Changing your mind can change your world because you see things differently. You can even somewhat change your past by simply coming to understandings and revelations about your past, thinking about what happened to you when you were a child from the standpoint of a parent or an adult. And you might see the situation differently. You might come to understand why your father was so angry, or why he did this. You may not understand why he beat you. That may be beyond your comprehension, but you can understand that this man was perhaps frustrated in his own life and unhappy, and was blaming everything outside of himself instead of himself for that which he was experiencing. And so therefore he took it out on those who were around him, and with abominable behavior as well as nasty words and actions. And you can see that. And then perhaps you can pity your father, and then perhaps you can forgive him. But this then changes your past. You let it go. You don't think about it anymore, because what you experienced was the irrational thoughts and actions of an irrational person. And it no longer has any importance to you because you have forgiven him, which gives you the power to move into your own state of mind and your own grace and where you want to be. You see, not forgiving things in your past, you carry them around with you forever. You think about them, you allow them to affect you. When you can rationalize them or come to understand them in some way and let go of them, then they no longer bother you. And that's what forgiveness is about. You're letting go of a situation from the past, which only causes you a problem because you continue to think about it. Otherwise, it is in your past. And it cannot affect you anymore unless you allow it to. And so you can say, this is in my past. This does not have anything to do with the person I am today, except that it did make me what I am today. But now I can choose what I will be tomorrow. It's as simple as that in many ways. It is amazing what you can do with your own mind when you take the power and control that you have. So I think we have gotten a little bit off the subject, but also maintain the subject. So you would not choose to come in as a lower species. You will only continue to move upward up the scale. And once you become a human, you have the option of entering into multiple lifetimes to allow yourself to progress and learn and demonstrate and to become the most perfect God that you can be. And then join forces with the one that created you.
Okay, now you brought up another question in my brain.
Yeah.
Obviously, okay, we wouldn't want to digress, so to speak, but would the animal spirit ever want to be in a human body?
I do not know that. I cannot answer that question. I'm sorry, but my belief is that it probably does not wish to, since everyone has their own, I want to say motivating, but it is not the correct word, the word to bring about life force. So it has its own life force, which manifests life within all substances. And so when they die, their life force returns to the life force they were already at and in. And I believe there is no desire to move higher simply because the lower animals and the insects and the birds are controlled by mostly instinct. As I have said, they do not have very many choices. Even their choices they do make, such as the choice of a mate, is based on instinct and seeing the female chooses in a sense, but she is impressed by an instinct which tells it that the larger the male, the stronger he is, and the more important and the stronger your offspring will be. And so that is instinctual. It is not thinking. It is observing, and it is bred into each species what they consider to be their optimum way of choosing to reproduce the species. And the way they must behave and how to eat and how to feed and all the things that animals do in their lives is all determined within their genes. And when you get into some of the, I will call them the lower mammals, but the monkeys and the apes and other animals, there are things that they learn. And perhaps you have heard of the story of 101 monkeys, which explains it very well. So that the species can learn and can learn more sophisticated or better ways of being. And so therefore, this is what is normal for them. They do not have, I do not believe they have a desire to change into a human or another species.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions, please? Well, there appear to be no other questions. And the time is, it is approaching the time that we customarily stop at anyway. And so if there are no more questions, it is time for me to say goodnight. And so I give you all my blessings. Good night. Hi, do you have any other questions for me? Okay, I know I'm the second banana, but that's okay too. Remember, I love you all. Good night.
Love you, Anna. Good night.